So I travel up here, spend time here about the next 3 weeks with you guys. So for the unit. Okay. So the unit is virtual reality and mixed reality. So you can probably go through some examples. I started populating the Milo website. Okay. So anyone have not have access to Milo? Okay, I think most of you guys have allocated yourself a tutorial. So that means I think probably just a handful of people that have not done that. If you have not allocated yourself a tutorial, I just pull up what canals look like. All right, so I think we have one person missing, but I think out of 85 that should be okay. So I think we'll sort it out. So basically this is a tutorial you selected. And one thing that I put the notifications on the Milo is that because our course will run, and then the last assignment, which I will get to, is going to be a group assignment. So I would probably ideal for you that you actually sit inside the same tutorial. Okay, if you happen to need a switch, there's not many rooms. I think the room is already fully booked. So the 30 per session, have you been to 369 before? It's a games lab, one of the very corner on the 3rd floor of our building. Okay, it looks very ordinary. It looks like a normal PC, but that's one is fully packed VR and games lab. So therefore, that you can run a full VR experience. That one happened to have only one. I think we'll have been budget to add another games lab, slightly better spec than that one. So that should come online next year. But for now, we just have one room. Okay, so that means I just have to be careful that actually you try to select it in your own tutorial. So otherwise, you just need to talk to me. Okay. One thing that I oftentimes pointed out, I think my audio is a bit loud. I don't really like to hear my audios, myself talking. All right, Alice. Hello. I can't hear. Hello. Okay. All right. So one thing is that if you have not used this feature in Milo, I suggest you do that. Okay. So this, I assume most of the people, if not all, only have this one unit. So you should be kind of checking Milo every day anyway. But another handy feature is that you go in and turn on your notification. So you come in and you click on your thing here, your icon here at the top, if you can see it. And then under notification here, you click on them. Okay. You will see all these clicks, so announcements. Every time I make announcements like what I did on Friday, so you will start to get that in email directly, just in case that you missed it or something like that. So make sure you turn that on. So then this is announcements. So that means this thing will keep popping up in your thing. If I add new contents and things like that, I tend to use this one as a key. Okay, so if you sign up for an auto notification, that would be great. So you know the content now is still there. I have a draft that I'm still refreshing to it, so you only see limited one. But this one will grow populated really quickly in the next few days. Okay. And you notice that the assignment 1 is already on Milo. Okay. So because assignment 1 is actually, I should use the student view. And by the way, the recording. These recordings, if the recording go well, all this should be on Milo by the end of the day. So the recording, the audio versus the slide. Okay, so normal Echo 360, my media. So this one I go in as a student, so I should be able to see the assignment 1 now. Yes, so because assignment 1 is actually due this Thursday, Okay, but it's an essay writing. It's nothing more. So you don't actually need to learn technical component. Another thing that I point out on Milo under notification in my notification is a timetable. Okay, anyone have any? I provide a link to the timetable. Is that am I? Yeah, I think I did this at the very bottom here. You click on that and you search for it. You will see all the details. So that one is checked out. No errors there. So, okay. Just provide you with some resources. Okay. So now let's see if we can go back to my slide. So since we have a total of 85 students, so I'll be the only one lecture, okay, so, and then I have a tutor. I'll be also a tutor in two of the three sessions, and then I got Lindsay. Dr. Lindsay is also helping me do two tutorials. So one he would do with me, and one he would do with another tutor, which is Lachlan. Okay, so he'll be helping the other two tutorials. So in each tutorial session will be two of us in there. Okay. So this is unit outline. Okay, and I'm not sure you get a chance to have a quickly look over the unit outline. Okay, for the unit, it's now on Milo. So they have 208 and 508, but they're essentially identical. So the idea of this unit is actually, anyone here have not heard of VR or AR before, or anyone have heard of it? Yeah, I think most of people will heard of that. So this unit is really not about teaching you to be a VR, AR programmer, although you can use this unit as a springboard. Okay, but by the 3 weeks time, you won't be VR developer per se. It's too tight. And then usually when I teach in Launceston, I teach in semester 1, regular semester. I also not emphasize on that one. So that's why you got to get your perceptions of the units correct. Okay, so this will explore the field. Okay, which is now actually, I've been teaching this unit for about almost 10 years. So it's come from nobody. I had to explain what VR is. I had to explain what AR is. But now people will probably get the idea before come to class. So you still have to explore in this. I will talk to you more a little bit of what the units is going to cover. It's definitely not the technical oriented component. I know that technical means different things in different domains. So technical in this case that I won't teach you algorithms. Okay? I won't teach you mathematics. I won't teach you how to program. Okay? I'll give you some platform, I teach you something. But what actually I won't try to get it to you is that you understand the technology well enough to know how to use it, or what to use it. Okay? In some case, you're only going to be develop small part of a big picture that you see. So that's first one. Essentially, this is in a unit outline. Okay, so this one, but the term advanced human user interface or human interactions, you probably a bit new. Our ICT school are often information systems. You learn about system information, how to manage them, or the opposite end is very technical programming, mobile programming. This one sits in somewhere in the middle. You touch on a bit of technical and you touch on a bit of design. But this one, the strength of this one is that the design component, but not the design, artistic design. This is interaction design, okay, which is our VR and AR essentially is a sit in that space. Okay. I'll talk a little bit more on that one. We emphasize, even though advanced interface could cover quite a few things, okay, but we are in this one is really targeting on mainly the VR and AR. Okay, which the next few days you will learn about a little bit technically what's the difference. We also touch a little bit on TUI, but TUI is it usually requires hardware-based. So that means this one is going to be kind of pseudo TUI component, tangible user interface. For example, you can build a mouse. You can click on this one, it will do something, and it would show some light when you're actually talking about light. So like a Google Homes, things like that, but it's built into more like tangible component form. We won't get that much far because that one requires a lot of hardware components. Okay, but you will get a sense of that. You get some visual objects that you can print out a marker and you create something there. So that's kind of what I call pseudo tangible user interface. Okay. So this one more or less try to get you the idea that actually it's about merging or bridging between the design of you understand what technology is capable of. and you understand the problem, what you try to solve in the real world, and you try to design a solution to match those. And that's what the core of this unit is sitting at. If you understand that well, neither you understand the technology very well, or you don't actually have the design or the solution to solve the real problem. If you somehow find a solution that's somewhere between, I mean, that would be a HD for you. Okay, so just on the sake of it, I barely fail anyone. Okay, unless you really want to fail, then I'll let you fail. So, but then at the same time, on the different token, barely anyone get HD from me. So because oftentimes the one that won't get HD from me is that you write a lot in your report or your final exam, but it tend to be a rephrasing of what I say in the class. I think that is probably, when I wrote that, okay, it's okay, but it's not really a HD quality. I really want the HD to be really bring out the idea, understand the issue, break it out, show your opinion, show your stakes. Okay, so that's why attending lecture, it would sound like this is probably the maximum I would get from my experience, and it would go down by day. By the time I get to it, might be a bit the last week when I talk about exam, that went a little bit bump up a little bit, but then it usually would go down from here. So what that means is that usually I would use that during the lecture to changing the exercise, get the idea back and forth, those kind of things. So you will see what I expect from that kind of response. So that's practically how I mark the exam. Okay. So tutorial session here is a key for us. It's had limitation 2 with the 85. Okay. Last year we have run this the first time here with a full new VR lab at that time. We have over 55. We managed to cap it this year somehow, changing of guard in the school. It didn't cap it, so it kind of blow over. So now instead of 2 tutorials, now we have 3 tutorials. So what that means is that for student part, face-to-face with me, it's the same. It's a 2-hour lecture, 2 hours tutorial. However, the time in which you access the room will be less, and this is a specialized lab. Unless, of course, you just want to do report. Yeah, reporting, you can do anything. So right now, I think I just was informed here that the lab that you will have access to, your card, is only going to be in this lab, 369 on the 3rd floor, and the other one called 268, which I still have no idea where it is. It's the 2nd floor somewhere. So you're the only one, and the printing facility that go online now, that university moved to, only going to work in 268. I don't have this slide yet, but I'll keep reminding you of that. So the tutorial here is a key. So make sure you go and attend this one. Okay, we have the last few years we've been gathering a new device, things like that. We'll talk a little bit about that. So you will have experience of a few of these things. I think you, by the end, you might have experience past your hands about 4 or 5 advisors in the market. Okay. But of course, we don't have one for 85 students, so we have one for a few, and then you're not always you have access to that. So, but I think we'll gather a little bit momentum there. So we should have quite a bit of things for you to play on. Anyone play with? I think some of you from last year anyway have VR games lab at home. Anyone has that? No, really? Oh, okay, so last year would have quite a few because apparently the experience is more about playing the VR games, really not about the assignment. So, and you'll be allowed to check out the device. So, I mean, that's one thing. But of course, you need to return it. You want in good condition, not in pieces. Okay, so in working conditions. So this is a unit outline. Okay, so I think we should have discussed that. So the first one is really what I'm talking about here is understanding how would you design it, how people design mobile apps, those kind of things. But this is how people design VR apps, AR apps. Why would they design that way? That would be kind of what this unit is trying to get you to that point. Okay, in the end, it's going to be depend on your creativities. Okay, a lot of these things, but it's not a design as architecture design. That's a very whole ball game. This is a 3D interaction design. Okay. But the similar principle. You do need to understand the need of what you're trying to solve. Okay. And this one is number 2 here. 1 and 2 is really much sit inside your first assignment. Okay. And number 3 here is iterative design. So this one is actually more using the technical, develop something, testing, checking with friends, and try to iterative with that, because you will find the technology are quite a lot of them packed into what you actually seemingly download like apps. Okay, but they're quite the version that you can go through it. So therefore, iterative allow you to gobble through that very quickly. Okay. okay? Which I think you will need that in these units, because essentially here in 2 weeks time we'll be practically pack it up and then ready for the final exam. Whether you're ready or not, final exam is coming on 14, okay? December. So this is our usual thing, attendance. If you not show up, if you not submit assessments, task 1 due 5 minutes before midnight on this Thursday, or you not attend any tutorial, most of the tutorial this week at all. Okay, so then I think you might be asked to leave the unit because, or get notified that you leave the unit, you already left, being forced to leave unit. This is just simply because we have a drop-off rate quite high. Like people just sign up but never really do anything, and it turned out that their mark is really not. Of course, they never turn up for the exam either. So, but since this is 85, it's about 75, it's 508. So I expect this to be a really high attendance. At least you'll be around for some time. And 208 times, I think you got to show fight. You don't drop off or disappear. Okay. And the news here, this one is really just notification. I talked to you before. So since we're gonna be, even though you're gonna be tired of my face and my tutor in 2 weeks time, because you'll be meeting us practically Monday to Thursday. For me, some of you are 4 hours each. Some of you may be lucky if you're in the 1 to 3 o'clock tutorial, which I'm not in there. So you only get to see me 2 hours in the lecture if you turn up for the lecture. But even that is still. When we put notification, we have no time to double check whether you get it. So therefore, this is designed for that. If you put it there, within 24 hours, we expect you to be. And that's the same thing when we reply the emails, except the one that emailed me this morning. I haven't got a chance because I was driving from Manchester here. So, but that is, from now on, practically full on. So everything's ongoing, okay? So make sure you do that, okay? And the email should email to me, and then or tutorial or tutors or CC me, things like that. But you will find that actually these units, most of you guys are these units, the spring unit is the first experience, I assume. So that means you probably find that actually talking to us is quicker than email because you'll be seeing us a lot more than we are checking our email. Like myself, I'll be kind of teach from 9, from the lecture, start from tomorrow. And then my tutorial finish at 5. I have a bit of a gap, which is usually my colleague will try to get me to a meeting. So I kind of fully occupied from those 9 to 5. So the email will probably after dinners or something like that. But you will see us a little more often. Any questions so far? Okay. And if you have any problem with my accents or anything, just let me know. Sometimes if I lose sleep, then my accent seems to go haywire. I can't even understand what I'm saying myself. So this is practically our structure. Okay. First, from the bottom, we have the final exam on the 14th Friday. I still have to work it out, the location. Okay, so they're working it out. So that's at 9 o'clock. So and then first assignments, assessment 1 here, which I will cover quickly now, shortly, on Thursday at around midnight. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that you should work until 11:55. I just simply don't want you to go tutorial, those who go to 3 to 5, and then realize that tutorial, the assignments is due at 5 o'clock. Then basically you'll be fully occupied with yourself and that. So this one just put it out so that nobody has any advantage per se. So okay, so we're not suggesting that you should do this all 11:55, but the one. Assessment task 1 is really a simple one. Okay, it's a really essay. You pick your topic, you write about it. It's about 800 words, which is only like two pages or something like that. Okay. So assignment 2 here is actually next week, and assessment task 3 is actually week following, and then it gets shorter and shorter, because that's just to leave the room so that you can finish this. So that you can have, by the time you finish on Tuesday midnight, on Tuesday on December 11, you practically have 2 days to prepare for your exam. To go into the exam, so which we'll cover in the last lecture. Okay, so assignment 2 and 3 in nature are similar, almost identical. Okay, however, assignment 3 is actually group work. Okay, and group work, as I stated in my unit outline, this year we add a peer review into it because I've been getting complaints that we will not have a peer review. Anyone familiar with peer review? Yeah, so peer review essentially tell that, Okay, you work more than your friends, or vice versa. So it's just some to prevent something that kind of convenient when they don't see a kind of a peer review sign, and people tend to go into their comfort zone and okay, I'm busy. But remember, this is you're only going to get 3 or 4 days to work on it. If you're too busy, that means half of the projects are gone. Yes, so that means this one will roll it up. Okay. And, any questions? So I said 2 and 3 here are really actually. I forgot to change the word. Essentially the same thing, assignment, assessment, task. So the 2 or 3, you submit a project. Okay, this is we use Unity 3D. Anyone heard of Unity 3D before? Yes, I think 208 students. So most of the 548 have you done Unity before? So essentially, it's a basic game engine, not a basic, but it's kind of what we use for a lot of what we did here. That's what the tutorial tomorrow, half of it will be about that, to get you at least get a taste of what Unity is. Okay. All right, now we'll go to our outline here. The blue one is a lecture. Okay. The reason is a Monday, the lecture is on 2 o'clock, so it allows me time to drive. From Launceston. So every Thursday night, you can see, I will drive back to Launceston to see my family. And then I come back on Monday morning. Okay, so try to be patient with me if I don't respond email in those 3 hours that I'm driving. Okay. And then in red here, except the final exam here, is actually assignment due. Okay, and you can see here, ideally, it would go like this, but now this go like this. So that means each one of them is less than a week. Okay? So we're mindful of that. So we'll make sure that this one is actually, you don't get to do way too much than what you need to do. Okay, and then the patterns are identical. Okay, except Monday, the lecture is kind of start at 2 instead of start at 9 o'clock. Okay. And then the tutorials are identical for the whole thing that you select. Okay, so start from 11 to 1. 1 to 2, 3, 3 to 5, okay, in the same room. So you'll be kind of clockwork in that period. You'll be moving 30 people in, 30 people in, out, things like that. Hopefully the weather will be kind to us. Last year was a bit warm. So that room with the VR on is actually very, very warm. So you will find yourself open a lot of windows. Okay. So, so assessment task 2 here is next week. Okay, so that's why we are getting you up on the technical when I say technical, don't be too scared. It's really not getting you to do what really is technical. It's more or less technical side part of the work. Okay, you will learn how to turn on the device, how to engage the device. For those who actually have more background in this, like 208 students and some of the 508, you can take it a more advanced on yourself to drive further. Okay, before 508, you never played before, then you can take it kind of step by step. We'll try to guide you to go to do a minimum components to allow you to get a feel of what the device can do. Okay. And assignment 3 here, so that means your group project here going to be formed on the 6th, okay, December, on Thursday. And that means hopefully you don't actually have a fight between them because you only can have Monday and Tuesday, and then that's it, that's your whole 20% project. Okay, so what that means is that some of these can be think about those. I'm going to try to help you by revising the AT2 and AT3, so this give you a little bit less thing to think about, but still give you option to think about. Last year, oftentimes my unit will allow you to come up with a project on your own, but then most students come up with the same thing, similar things. So I think this year I might put some seed out there so that you can actually pick a project doing this and things like that. And the assignments here, my unit is not technical, so that means you feel free to get somebody else's code, not your friend code, but it's somebody else's code online, GitHub, those kind of things, get the package from the Unity, load it in, as long as you actually acknowledge them, okay? But remember, don't acknowledge that you copy from your friend inside the class. That is not, you better not acknowledge that, and you better not get caught for that. Okay, so you can acknowledge for this. So this allows your program to go further really quickly. Okay. All right, so hopefully this makes sense. Okay. And then there's some a couple of requests on changing tutorial in December. I think replied to that already, so that you can just have to check with me. Right now, practically as I show you on Milo, each session is already full. So it's best to actually have a time to switch them around, or 5 people to switch with you. That will be the easy fit, because in terms of material-wise, there's no difference between each session. Okay. Except that if everyone happen to move and the other one, instead of 30, and you suddenly find you say you have 40 students inside. I mean, that's going to be super hard. Super hard, and probably not workable, because it only have, I can't remember now, it's a 20 or 25 machine in that room. So that means that there'll be no work. But 30 is probably already a limit. Some of you might actually have to team up. Okay. And some of the technical component, and in some of the device, you might actually 2 or 3 of you work on the same device. So that means you no longer need 3 machines for it. You just need 1, and then just need to make sure that you don't kick each other out in use a lot of a share, to be a lot of share moving. All right. So this one is just tell you you already know, okay? The unit mark pass is 50, that's the overall, but each of the component, which internal 50, and then internal means the 3 assignment, okay? And then the final exam 50%. Each of them cannot be below 45%. So what that means is that you cannot do exam very well, but never show up for the assignment, never turn in the assignment before, okay? So you still get the balance, right? Of 50, but that's you won't pass in it, because you're either low on exam or is low on internal. So that means you could still, we shouldn't say this, or suggest you do this. You could fail internal, when we get less than 50, but more than 45, you can still pass in it. Okay. I'm not suggesting that's the way you would do, but that would just kind of mathematically work out. So that means you just have to, you're on top of your component. Okay. All right. So this is assignment 1, mostly. This is from a few years ago. So essentially, this is kind of writing that I would expect. So this is 800 pages. So if you look at the spec, which we can look at together shortly, about what the project is. So we talk about application. Okay, so applications, this is what this application for is. So try to get you to pick the application from that you see online, okay, and write about it. Okay, that's it. And then in specification, there's some guideline to that. Okay. So this is 10%. That should be relatively easy. Assignment 2 here, you have to build some project. Okay. In this case, mean Unity project. Okay. So in this case, it's the same thing. So you might actually pick application, but the last few years, I think it worked well. Is that instead of you write just what you actually build, when in fact that would mean very small. So that means you don't have time or you don't have technical skill, you might not actually build too much of it. So therefore you just write very limited. So this one is always a twofold. Okay? The technical component should be indicative of what you write, but what you write could go beyond what you actually did in the technical component. Okay? For example, you could pitch a big project in your report, but then your development need to go along that line, but it doesn't have to fulfill the whole thing. So that will allow you to pitch your project idea a little bit further and have more to write on the report. These will be really useful for your assignment 3, when you have 3 or 4 people sit on the team. Some could be on the design component, some could be the technical component, but the goal of achieving the technical component could be lower, much lower. Okay. And this one, I think this one is from a project a few years ago. Yeah, this one is I think they look like they just want to do a virtual museum, not museum, library. Okay. So this is one of those VR component. But this is, of course, back then when I started teaching until last year, VR is actually on the desktop, on the monitor screen. But now VR is upgraded. Now you're actually going to be in a headset. Okay. And for some of those, so that's a virtual. This is a kind of a screen capture of your screen. Okay. So next one is actually, this is more AR. So this is like learning new buildings, things like that. So it's changing, moving. This is what we call augmented reality. Okay. So you can see the whole thing moving in space. Okay. You still see the red desk and then tablet, but the technology moved now. So now you might not even need some marker on the floor. So hopefully you get some idea, okay, what the 3 assignments look like. It can be stacked up on you. So the next few days is a breathing time. but not a relaxed sum. This is really about catching up, planning out, and getting things on. So that's why I'm lowering out most of the content with the next few days before the end of the week, so you will have the whole plan out. Okay. So, but at this time, if you actually lower anything, you just have to start to pick it up now. Yes. So in this case, it's just try to give you a kind of sense of what the lecture and the tutorial. So script, but in terms of lecture here, you can see the different components. These are the highlight topics of what might cover, okay, what we will cover. And then the tutorials here is about what is supposed to do. Okay, there's a certain component, you search on those terms, you will see some of these things. The one that actually won't cover too much, but it will depend on whether you actually have technical background, how much you have it, is scripting. Okay, so that's the programming. So that's what Lachlan said. And Lindsay would help. Okay, but the scripting here is not required. Okay, let me emphasize: it's not really. You don't have to be very good at technical scripting, programming to get a HD in this unit, but you do need to have basic skill. Okay, you do need to program, run a device, things like that, basic thing. Okay. And how to work in your group work. So that's peer review. I'm not really a champion personally on a peer review. I think it's just simply it's a tool of people that try to get more marks when they see people don't work, when their team not working with them. But essentially here, what the idea should be is they should work out a way to actually make a team that work less than them to work more, to more comparable, instead of desert them and then they get rewarded by picking up some of their slack. I think that's just kind of a drive in the wrong direction. But my good trust is actually didn't work out in the previous year, so they tend to be using that. They say, oh, there's no peer review, so well, I just don't do anything. Right, so some of this lecture, I have to acknowledge Professor Tom Furness. This is the University of Washington. By the way, I graduated from the University of Washington. I joined UTAS in 2009. Anyone, you might have heard the word HIT-Lab before, Human Interface Technology Lab. That's located in the north, so that's a big initiative in 2009, and they recruited me, and I've been there ever since. And that is my supervisor. The lab is actually co-founded by my PhD supervisor, Tom Furness. And these are my colleagues, although he looks much older than me, but we are kind of similar age, but he's grown a little bit of white hair. So he is Professor Mark Willinghurst, so he's well known in augmented reality. If you search, he's one of the highest cited people. So some of the material in this class is actually from what gather information from them, and also some of the things they contribute. Okay, just want to acknowledge that. So with this, any question? Usually what I run into our session here, which is basically have at about halfway, I'll have about 5 minutes break, so anyone can get stretch out of the leg, go to toilets, and things like that. Okay. So that's usually about 50 minutes in, so have that, and then come back for another 50 minutes. So in this case, I should jump to the so this is a first assessment task. Okay. So this is due this Thursday. Okay. So this is write a review paper. Okay. So this is really not a scholarly review paper. It's just write a little bit of what you learned. Okay. So remember, but this one I cautionally put at the very bottom here. This is assignment is about reviews of application, advanced human-computer interaction application, because in the previous year, some people would just write about gadget, about device instead. Yes, when in fact the device is actually what you actually use after you pick application, which is this one. That's why I want to get it very clear for this time. Is that just write about advanced anything? It could be anything, be VR, could be YouTube that you see on it and you like it. But the key here is that since you have about 800 pages, so that's a two page of writing, not including the picture and everything. You probably don't want to pick something that you cannot write about. Only you can see and then give me a link, but then you can't really write about. So in this case, you should pick something that you think you can write about a little bit more. And that was the suggestion that I have it here. So the first couple lines is really just about description, what it does, okay? And then number 3 here, interface significance. Why do you think they use this interface? Okay, what user need to do, perform. Okay, this is just a kind of guideline to give you how to drill down into what can you review this paper, review this application. And the fourth one, the list, strength and weakness. So that just simply say what you think is good, what you think is not so good about this one, what the weakness, what should be improved, things like that. So that means that there's no perfect right or wrong. Only right or wrong, how much is really depend on your argument. Okay. Oftentimes people say good things. So these assignments are relaxed usually. Relaxed doesn't mean that you turn in blank page. Okay. So relaxed means I won't mark quite significantly. I will kind of take it easy to give you a feedback. However, all this assessment here, I won't be able to do the detailed assessment because I practically have to spend my after dinner, weekends, everything to mark along the way so they can come back here and see you on Monday. So that means I won't be kind of give you a few comments or even write well done or anything like that. So please don't expect that. So usually I don't do that anyway, but this is probably more or less I go CIA, the criteria reference, tick, 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 and then go. But if you feel like something is off, email me and then I will go case by case instead of I have to do that for 85 students. Okay. So the weakness, strengths. Okay, this is where you find the strength, weakness, and then you try to analyze it out. But this is go the best you can. So I mean, if you have more of this area before, so you will start to have a kind of get thinking, why I'm really looking for a depth of this one. But this one, it really, as I said before, I will mark it easy, relatively easy compared to exam. Okay, exam I mark quite tough in this space. Tough doesn't mean I will try to set to fail you, but tough means I won't get HD basic. This one I will expect that probably 30% of the class will get HD. Okay, assuming 30% of class turn in a good one. so that will probably the game. Okay, so don't be too stressed too much, but try to keep up on it. Okay, and the last point here, potential real world. So maybe you looking at application that kind of gadget, but you think they can apply to some other thing, other domain, then that's what you write about. As I said, no right or wrong. It doesn't have to write about something that already exists. You just have something and you take your imagination and design to a different component. And the last one is really the key. Understand technology in one domain, apply to others. Okay. I'd like to see some, hopefully I see some good ideas. Okay. So this is it. And in terms of second paragraph here, there's several ways you can do that. YouTube, websites, anything. So it's just look. This assignment really aim for one thing, get you kick-started and keep you thinking about this unit. Okay. So as you can see, all the labs, nothing more. If you write anything, you can just look at it. VR, plenty of resources out there. Okay. But remember, you need to cite them. Okay, so that should be a practice for postgraduate and undergraduate and all academic paper. You need to cite them where you get it from. Okay? Even the weakness, strength, it doesn't have to be purely your idea. Actually, it'd be good to actually someone look at it and then you pick their brain out. I think that would be good. Okay? Because you guys don't have experience quite yet, so therefore just to come up everything from the top of your head, it might be a little bit it might not be the best way to do it. If you happen to read another review paper, please feel free to use that. Cool. All right, any questions? All right, so I will do another thing to go jump to this. I should turn off my email. Because now, you know, universities are moving away, no longer have a landline, except this one, have a landline telephone. So now we're using what they call Skype for Business. So it means all our computer, everything. So suddenly you get my colleagues pinging me on that. It's like Skype message. It's not always a good thing. All right, so this is again, okay. I think the plan here is the timetable, you mix it up. The rooms here, there's tomorrow tutorial is 369. Go to the third floor of this building. The room is only one end, the other end is admin. And my temporary office inside the opposite end of that third floor, which is under Chris Burton. There's a glass window, you cannot get in, okay? So I'll kind of hitting away in that one. I think Lindsay is 470. He probably mad at me that I tell you where his office is because you can actually go and knock in him. But as I said before, most of the time you will find that actually you see us enough for a day. And you no longer need to come to our office because we are actually not in our office most of the time because we will be part of you. Yeah, so. All right, so hopefully you have anything that case. Now, I'll do this so that you can have a little bit, we can take about 5 minutes break. The device we will play with is, first one is this one. You can't really see. Anyone play with this before? Yes, I think you have, yes, quite a few, so I think you'll feel at home with that. We have 6 of them. I think 7 is actually one sensor broken, so still testing it. So I think at least we have 6 of this to go around, okay? So that's what the first thing we want to get off the hook, starting late tomorrow, second part of tomorrow and on Wednesday. Okay. So this is a white VR headset. This one you've never been before. Setting up this, seeing this for the first time might be a good experience for you. Okay. Inside there's a stereoscopic display, so you see things in 3D. Okay. And then as well as you have 100-degree field of view, which has been you practically cover your whole field. Okay. And also has a tracking capability that can run update rate of your tracking whole thing as 90 frames per second. So this is a pitch point and selling what it does. The difficult part for tomorrow is setting it up. Okay, so if you've never done this before, you will find that, oh, it's quite a lot of work. But if you've done this before like me, then this should take 5 minutes. Okay, but tomorrow we'll spare about half an hour and hours for it. Remember, we have only 6 of this, so therefore tomorrow we have to split them in one row and 3, and the other row 3. And also when you set it up, it's not like USB stick. It needs required space. So, I mean, your computer here, the one to the left, the one to the right cannot be used. So it got to be focused on that one because you're going to have a tracking space. So essentially, you'll be walking, putting this thing and standing in front of the cheap computer, okay, and looking fabulous. But oftentimes you will laugh at each other. So that's one thing. Another thing that we have for you, this one probably not many chance of people play with it. Microsoft Mixed Reality. Okay, this kind of space that we're playing now is the full company. Oh, by the way, do you know who owns Oculus? You definitely use the Facebook app, right? So Facebook is actually own this company. Okay, so this is except the Facebook logo. This one is actually owned by Oculus. It came out from the Kickstarter about 2012. Okay, you know Kickstarter. All this cloud sourcing. And then about 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, yes, Facebook bought it for $2 billion. Yeah. And now this is the first commercial headset. Okay. Before that, it used to call DK development kit, things like that, which is it looks similar. Yeah, but this one is much more comfortable to wear. Okay. And then this one, Facebook. With the other one, next one is Microsoft. This is their effort of getting there. This is VR, they call it mixed reality, which is confuse a lot with, cause a lot of confusion among academic because mixed reality is not really technically virtual reality. This one you can see here, the lady wearing some headset, some controller. We have 3 of this guy, okay? So testing, so it should work well in your computer, okay? On your lab computer. This one, the difference here is that we still have a cable, okay? So all this VR, you're inside a virtual world, imaginary world you have, but you have a cable. So I mean, you don't run away. Don't run while you're in it. So otherwise, something will pull the back of your head. But this one, the strange thing is that there's no required external sensor that you can be pop it on the floor. Oculus require that. I'm not sure the image here is going to see it, but yes. So you now, tonight after the lecture, you can start to look for these things and look for example. This one, what Microsoft will try to push, okay? So we have 3 of these, so we should have some time with it. And we just recently grabbed it just 2 weeks ago, Oculus Go. This one, the newest from Oculus family. So this one is VR headset, except that there's no cable at all, okay? Except the fact, but however, it's only 3 degrees of freedom tracking. So that means you can walk around, hit something, but the thing is your virtual world doesn't move with you. It's essentially a fancy version of a cardboard, through a cardboard for many years, okay? So, but it's a very nice form factor, okay? So we have 2 of these for you guys to play first time. And we also recently got this, only 2 weeks ago. So this is a new breed of VR device. They call standalone VR. Okay, this one is come with a full 6-degree freedom tracking, which I'll explain. So essentially, without all the sensor and everything, you can actually walk around with this device. Okay, not that you actually want to do that much. Okay, so but this is a kind of knock it down version. Less it's a Snapdragon processing. It's practically it's Android. Okay, but it's run on the same on full device. It had a built-in outside looking in sensor. So essentially built like tracking that actually track itself. We will talk about that in one of the lecture. Okay. So this one is also a couple of these ones. It's built on a platform called Daydream, which is a Google platform. Okay. Nowadays they do this kind of OEM type, but before it used to be OEM on the hardware, now it's OEM on the software. Because the back end of this is a WorldSense by Google Daydreams. This is a 6-degree freedom SLAM visual-based sensor. Okay. This is where a little bit of technical. You don't actually have to understand every word I say, even though you understand what I say, but it's a kind of backdrop because this thing had developed for the past few years. Okay. So this one is very exciting to have a hands on this. Okay. So this is more make up a lot of what our VR gear look like. So that means ideally you will go through this. This week we'll pump this thing to you. You know how to set up, do a little bit of example. But since we have 30 people inside sessions, so we'll have two things moving around. So that means your learning mode will be somewhat crossover into individual and peer learning. So that means if you're more technical inclined and you're giving a device, and then 3 of you are sitting learning together, you might be the first one may be driving, okay, setting it up, second one could help, and the third one could be looking, and then we could take a turn. So that's why it's going to take some time, a little bit in that part. But the idea is that everyone can get their feeling whether they can do something with it. Okay. Now, the second one here, I think it's good. This one is actually the tab here. It's basically augmented reality. Okay. So this one is virtual reality is easy to imagine. So it's a virtual world. You go inside, you don't see real world. Okay. Augmented reality is like sunglasses. You see through them. Virtual contents are floating in space. Okay. So that one we play with the basic 3 libraries. Okay. One is everything run on Unity. Okay, so it's no problem there. So package everything prepared for. Some of them will be on Milo, so you can play with those. Okay. So in this case, this is our old existing that I've been using many years called Vuforia. Okay, it basically come out from a Qualcomm. Right now it's being sold off to some company I don't remember. Qualcomm is a chip making company, mobile chip. Okay. Snapdragon, so most of your cell phone will have some of the Qualcomm chip. Okay, so they invest in this many years ago. Okay, and then it become a kind of basic tool. Okay, that actually allow the AR to function on mobile device or on the webcam. So there's on the PC in the Lab 369. There's a webcam on each of the camera. Even though webcams is quite a low quality, I think it's only a standard density, only a SD quality. Okay. But this is quite handy. It's built into Vuforia. It's probably the simplest form you can get. Okay. The next one is just only a turn a year this month. It's AR Core. Anyone play with this before? You might have AR Core and this one is Vuforia requires some marker to be trained. Marker means a pattern in which the computer recognizes beforehand. AR Core doesn't. AR Core actually do this on the fly, mapping whatever on the environments, and use that to stabilize itself. Just like this. This is all features. Okay. For these part component, we have 3 Pixel 2. Okay. And then we have 4 Pixel 1. They're all capable of running this AR Core. AR Core only run on certain a little bit high-end phone. Okay. If you have Samsung S8 or up, and that will be good, and quite a few other things are available. So you just have to turn developer mode. When we get to that tutorial, we'll look at whether you're keen to do that, keen to put it there. So you can see here, you can change. This is essentially here, the idea is to be able to stabilize the cell in space. Because otherwise, when you move your camera, the whole model will move with you. And that was the whole idea of registration, having the augmented components in space. Okay. And the last one here, you might have seen this before. It's a few years now. Okay, but it's still probably one of the best AR headset. Okay, this one is Microsoft HoloLens. Okay, This one we don't really have teaching money to buy for it, but my research project does, and then I think I rent myself to give you to get used to it. Okay, we have a couple of these at home in-house so that people can play with it. But this is probably the most expensive one of all the gear. This one, each one of them is like 4,500. So make sure you check in, come back in one piece and really good piece because this could be an expensive thing. So essentially here, all this is going to be laid out in the tutorial, and then basically we'll take you to each one of them tutorial quickly and try to get you to get the test of it for all 85. Okay, but from last year, even the 55 students, some of them will be less inclined to interact. But this is a chance. If you want to do this, there's quite a few new devices up here in the market. Okay, and I've been lucky in the last couple of years at the school. Every time I ask for money to buy a device, and they tend to give me. So I tend to buy all these things. Okay, so make sure that make use of it. And of course, all this is a wearable, touching. So that I prepare some. For Genic, I prepare some alcohol wipes so for you guys to kind of do it, not just hand your headset to another person directly with all the sweat and everything. Okay, so we'll go through the process during the tutorial. So any question? So yeah, we have plenty of devices here. Devices available to check out. You just need to sign a form, which is really a piece of note, and you just have to bring back. Make sure that usually if we run a tutorial, not like between Tuesday, if you're not renting or checking out over the weekends, then you have to return before our next day. If you check out on Thursday, on Tuesday, then we need to get them back by the Wednesday so that we can run tutorial. Until we actually break into until next week when everyone starts to really working on the project, then it depends on what your project is, you might be able to check out. But one thing that could come from that is that, let's say we have more demand in certain device, we might actually turn out to be a share between different people. Okay. But essentially, we're hoping all devices will go out. Okay. And again, come back in one piece, functional piece. And I think that's pretty it. I think I'll take 5 minutes break and then, 10 minutes, so we'll come back at 3. Okay. Yep. Okay, which part is it?
So I need to introduce a technology.
No. This is existing, no? You just write about existing application.
I need to find a...
Yeah, you just need to find anything that's partly related to the human interface technology.
It's an app application.
Yeah, application. You can even write about mobile apps that actually about this interface, using voice, recognizing face, things like that. Anything in that sort of thing. If you're not sure, you pick a topic and you send it to me. I'll quickly have a look whether they fit within the scope of the project. But most of the things is really fit.
So what's this mean? So
Oh, this is just guiding you how to go about that. So
I can Google.
yeah, you can do it.
So I don't need to understand the application. I just...
You do need to understand what the application for, so to answer some of these. But you don't actually have to understand what it made and what the technical details deep down, unless you want to. But you don't actually need to do that. But you do need to understand what it's for, how it works, and how you think it can apply to the future.
And this one, so I need to use this application.
Oh, this is just a suggestion for a report. When you send a report, yeah, so you just have to cap what the application looks like and then cap it in, screenshot and put it in the report. So when I look at it, okay, this is what you're talking about, and then I'll read through it.
Can I just use the screenshot from the internet?
Yeah, that's what it's. I think most of these you won't get hands on the actual application. Some of them you might have be able to download on the app, on the mobile, but some of them you might just be able to just read, and that's it. That's really enough.
Okay, and what's the citation?
Well, citation is the reference. So, for example, if you citations are mostly used for research domains, like people publish paper, and then they have to cite people for. Well, okay, so then that's a citation. But it could be, in a layman term, it's a reference.
Yeah, the
It's just a-
reference. So you prefer the academic reference, peer reviewed reference, or
No, if you go YouTube,
website
then
or-
yeah, it depends on the source that you use. If most of your sources come from YouTube, because it's all YouTube, there's no academic paper in there. But if most of your some student from a series of paper, publication, academic paper, of course, then you cite it accordingly. Yeah, so there's really no. That's why I think this one is flexible.
This part, and what are the user needs?
Oh.
How to operate the application? So explain that.
No. User need here is really about why we need data application. Either for blind people, why we need because they can't see things like that. That's what they need. Yes, so I think that's what I meant.
So how the application changed people's life?
No. How application was designed. What's the problem that they try to address? So I mean, they have to
What's the purpose?
Yeah. What's the purpose? Why would you design this way? Why would you design for the user? Because it's everything for the user to use, right? So why would the user? What particular need the user has? Why would this app is useful for them?
Oh,
Yeah. So essentially, just understand application.
so I need to analyze the strengths
Yeah.
and the weakness.
Yeah. So this one is just list and explain a little bit of why we strengths look like this and things like that.
What's this? Because we choose one application, so what's
Yeah.
the select the application?
Oh, this one, for example, if you see one application, right, and then you say, okay, yeah, this is you go through all the step here, but the last one you might say, what can it potential? I mean, if you can't find it, it is okay. But if you actually can find it, for example, oh, this one can be applied into another application in medical, for example, you could find in education. This one teach this, teach it. You can, but this one, if we can apply to this, even though this one is for architecture, for example, can be applied if you're using the medical content, and then you can project it into the different domain.
So I just apply.
You should
this-
talk about.
Talk about.
Yeah, you just write about it. You don't need
other
to.
fields, or I need to find other application to combine them.
Oh, you could try to do that, but that's a more difficult way to go.
Yeah.
But you can apply to other fields as simple. But this is only say potential. So that means if you actually don't see it, I mean this is probably okay too. But generally, most of the interface devices are often they are straight into one application what they're designed for. So much easier that you can project them because you don't actually have to apply them to other fields. You just think. You just are proposing that okay, this could be applied to this too, and why would you think so? And that's it. That's for this assessment. It's not. You don't have to build evidence. You don't have to build a whole lot of it.
Okay, I saw the criteria and this one. So this is the last part.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's when you put your HD. So that means if you don't have much of this, but this one is actually if you still don't have it, you still kind of sit inside other
Yeah,
brand.
when we do the assignment, we will see the criteria for the HD part.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
our
Yeah, yeah.
target is HD.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe the
Then I think you probably can, as I said before, any application has a way to actually apply to other things. It's just a justification whether you put a strong justification for it. It requires some thinking. And you would show that how much you understand the application that you actually select.
Okay. And for this one, so we need to have a writing style. So we need a formal style.
Academic writing, I think.
Do we need a cover?
No. Writing style here is where you structure your sentence, things like that, essay, because otherwise you have bullet point.
Content list.
Oh no, that's a formatting. Yes, that's different. Writing style here is, I didn't say academic, right? Yeah, I mean, concise writing style. I mean, your writing get to the point, and it has a quality of writing. You have a reason, you have a stage. It's kind of basic essay writing. I didn't require this to be academic paper because that's a whole lot of different way of writing.
Yeah.
That is a published paper you can see on the internet. So you will see them in quite a very different style. Yes.
Yeah.
But this one is more or less writing sense. Yes. Yes. Generally, I won't mark this too heavily, but if you have a lot of typos and a lot of this, then of course you won't get too far with it.
So we need to justification for every.
Yeah, justification, some of these you won't do much, you won't be able to justify too much technically, but you at least should have a routing, sounding, convincing argument to project it. Instead of saying, I like this one going to be good, and that's it. You should have a little bit explaining what actually contribute to that, why do you think so, things like that. So it's a proper setting up of the essay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes the first page is the title and
Yeah.
our name, and the second
Yeah,
page
but this one is controlled by
content.
the 800 words, so that means you will have about roughly about 2 pages
Yeah.
of content. So that means if you actually have a first page blank, then the content will be on the second or third page. Yes.
Okay. So content list, if I
If you want
some-
to add, it's fine, but this is a short paper. It's not bother. Yes.
And for the citation reference, you need where is.
Usually, if you either list it in the text or you actually list at the bottom, or at the very end of your paper.
Yeah. So in text citation is okay.
Yeah, in text is fine.
Okay. So also need the reference list.
Oh no. I mean, you have it in the text, it's okay.
Do not need the reference list.
If you have the list at the bottom,
last part.
like academic paper, you will cite number.
Yeah.
This number 1, and then the 1. But if you actually put in the text, then it's okay. Then you stay there.
Okay.
You don't need the bottom. Yeah. All right,
Thank you
no.
very much.
Yep.
Google Glass is a device for an application.
Google Class by itself is actually a device. But you can actually, if you want to write about that, you can find interesting application that Google Class can use, and you write about that application.
So when I'm writing, I focus on the application. Okay, thanks. And also, I think this one is.
This is the application.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so next one here is a more lecture. So you'll get a feel of what the lecture is. So our lecture will go to stream. If you can look at the title of the lecture inside the file name. So this is an introduction to user interface. Okay, so it should give you a ballpark of what that means. Okay. So the user interface, what we call here, or you can call it advanced human-computer interactions, or someone could call it human interface technology, and some people could call it UX, UIs, and whatnot. There's quite a few names. But this unit is really about 3D components. Okay, so this is about 3D UI, 3D UX, if you can get that far. Okay, UX is a user experience. That's a very hard one to do because it's very abstract and subjective. Okay. So the user interface here is between human and machine. That's purely and simple. Okay. Every time I have school kids come to the head lab, I do many million things of this already in the last 10 years. So usually this is the first thing I told them, and this is the first thing I usually tell them, that this is probably the way you still use computer, and this is 1980s. Okay. So what's the difference, do you think? Just imagine a form factor. Just try to ignore them a little bit. I think they'll be retro, but I think it's be fine. In fact, this could come back in fashion very soon, or without the weight. Actually, I think the weight is still not preferably. Carrying the 20-inch, I remember, it gave me a good workout 15 years ago. Yeah, but nowadays you can lift that with a pinky finger. Yes. All right. So what do you think is the main difference here? Yeah. Invitation. So the screen here not very well, but it's a monochrome, single color. So okay. But in terms of form factor, this is what I'm trying to get to the interface. Okay. Not much on the technology component. Essentially, the interface here, it's the same interface with what you're using, including your advanced fancy laptop. Okay. It's a similar thing. You look into something else, that actually not part of the real world, it's a part of the physical object that you put in front of you. Okay. This is in some way called interface metaphor. Okay, this is basically you're outside looking in, so you're sitting, you look in some monitor, and you know, this is where, and your hands is on a keyboard. Okay, this is now making it way back in the game, so all this mechanical keyboard, and that's at that time is actually no choice. You have that. And do you notice anything in terms of interface, thing the difference? He probably your grandpa by now. So he's missing a mouse. Keyboard. So because that time this is not even a computer, this is actually mainframe terminal. If you actually understand that term, it's a terminal where you, for example, you go and get your ATM money. That's a terminal, except that this doesn't have money in it. It's a terminal when in access. The computer itself is not computing here. It's actually connected to the Wi network internet. I'm not even sure internet at the time, but it basically connected. So there's a big room filled probably somewhere about the size of the rooms to contain mainframe computer, okay, which is for the purpose of calculating. Okay, so you just have to learn, type in commands. Okay, there's no graphical user interface. Okay, and you can see all the things that list as a line. So this is a command line type. So you go like an old typewriter. You type one sentence, you go up. In some way, it make a fashion back again. If you use WeChat, if you use a social network, that's a similar kind of interface. It's basically go line by line, it go up. Okay. The graphical user interface introduced in the early 90s. By now, nobody knows Windows 3.1, so things like that. So a very long time ago. But that's changing, and also the Mac 2, I think Macintosh 2, introducing the mouse. Mouse itself is actually not revolutionary, okay, but however, it's allows you to actually click on the screen, where in fact it's no longer the latest lines of what you actually at the bottom of the screen. Okay, if you go line by line, you're always watching the bottom up. Okay, the graphical allow you to click here, click there. So that's the paradigm shift about 30 years ago. Okay, but other than that, this practically you have a desktop game machine at home. This is more or less what you have. Okay. Oh, another side things on the sides here. There's a little tape there. What do you think is it? A little round things like a roll. Yep, yeah, that's correct. So storage is a magnetic tape. So that's probably a fraction of what you have in your phone now. Okay, so but at that time it's actually, I think it might be very cool at that time. I wasn't in that age, but to carry this around our workplace, because that means you're actually computer guys, which is nobody know what computers look like in the 80s. But you actually be carrying a lot of this walking around. All right, so why do we need a new interface though? Well, first thing is that the task is getting complex, okay? Right, so there are a lot of changing here. Oh, by the way, I keep forgetting. Last slide here, paradigm shift from command line to graphical user interface, okay, with mouse, and then the shift again about 10 years ago with introducing of iPhone, okay, which is a paradigm shift at that time. You know the main difference? Main difference now is that you not just look at the screen and type on the keyboard, you're actually looking at the screen and type on the screen. And that is a major change. The impact of that is that it actually have a highest acceptance rate among the elderly with iPad, iPod, or not iPhone, but mostly iPad, because iPhone would be too small for elderly, but iPad would be a fit. So that means actually, when they actually never use computer in their life, that you will find a very surprised result that actually they use a lot of iPad to connect with their friends and things like that. And now with those kind of paradigm shifts, barely, even my screen here I can touch. Okay, so now increased task complexity. Okay, so before the computer are really just about data entry. You have a guy, you put in, and then you have a piece of paper of data to print it out, and you put the data input inside that. Okay, but now task complexity is much, much more than what you have done before. A lot of them are hidden behind you. So a lot of cloud computing, a lot of those are done beforehand. But your task, the task itself is actually getting more complex. Can you give me some example? gaming. Yeah, you call that task? Yeah, gaming. Yeah. Now gaming is a little more advanced if you combine that with VR headset. Then I think I wish you don't have sensitive to motion sickness because that would be a very horrible way to go. But that is very much so. The task complexity here is actually, believe it or not, it actually has a root inside the military. When they actually, for example, in a cockpit, when people do a fighting pilot in a cockpit fight plane, you will have all kind of control in front of you. And that's when the complexity becomes key. And you miss lower in, get the answer right, what to do, but actually 2 seconds too late, then that would mean the end of your flight there. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this is actually coming through. You heard a lot of words they call cognitive loads and those kind of things. That actually playing a role into this. So what that means is that it's no longer, oh, I can do this 10 years ago, I should be able to do it now. No, your task is complexity keep increasing. The same thing with your CPU. Now your CPU in your laptop is actually much faster than a lot of things you had 10 years ago. But the thing is that while you're after a few years of your laptops tend to slow itself down. I think iPhone had been in the news the last 6 months, is it? The one that actually, every time they launch a new iPhone, the old iPhone tend to go into a kind of a retirement mode. They can kind of slow itself down, working slower and slower. I think they still try to get out of that lawsuit. Yeah, but the idea here is that a machine doesn't go old overnight. Okay, it doesn't. When a new iPhone come out, the old iPhone gets suddenly clock speed slower. It's the same spec. What changed here is the task itself, application itself. They start to build for the new CPU type, new speed type. So that means that your old window, if you go back and you have legacy device, you can turn it on, they're still running. There's nothing wrong with it. Except that it no longer run any application, then nowadays they're running. And that's what become a key problem for a lot of legacy devices. I think you probably have more than one phone in your life, so you have plenty of stack coming with those. Okay. I'm sure if you find the key is if you find the right adapter, still can find the adapter, then you can boot it up. But whether it's actually useful or anything. Yeah, but for hobby, there's plenty of things you can do. So this is what always increasing. Okay, so that's why we need always looking for this type. And this one is also important for the volume. So this is where, again, military components where you actually want to do more, focus more. This is a multitasking component. Although it's quite ironic that actually research has shown in the last few years that actually humans are not doing very well with multitasking. Because essentially multitasking means you're doing many things at the same time, has a few monitors and things, and you have many things floating in front of you. Application here, there's 10 applications floating. The study showed that actually multitasking actually only going to reduce efficiency in each of them, but it's kind of average it out. So you can feel like you do more, but in fact you do less for each one of them. So that's why when you listen to my lecture, you should just listen to my lecture. You should not multitasking and looking at your laptop and do many things. But you can look at my slide. It's okay. But yeah, so this multitasking is sometimes can happen. Okay, interface design will play into this role. Okay, by the fact that you anticipate the task going to change. Okay, that at this point of function there will be 3 options available. How to guide them. Okay, how to guide the user to make it use further. Mm-hmm. So this one is actually in a big area at the moment. Okay, probably everyone heard about big data. Okay, I'm not suggest you put in a VR headset and dive into the big data, because I think you will come up with absolutely nothing to learn from it. The big data. The big data here, I mean, you just have plenty of many information. Do people still get hold of what to do? Okay, but you probably already know from not from the designer point of view, but from the consumer point of view, that your data is being mined at the moment. Okay, everything you use, you log in your Gmail account, you go on Facebook, you go into anything. Okay, they're actually tracking a whole lot of things of what you're doing. Okay, you search for certain things on internet. The next day, your advertisements actually target on you. Okay, I think you will have this experience before. Am I right? Yeah. So if you're searching something, and then almost the very next day, when your browser work, it would actually, those target advertisements would just target to what you just searched in the last few days. But except the fact that I wish they actually update a little bit more often, because it's something that I searched like a year ago, they still keep popping up on my browser. Yes. So this is another need of driving, so you have a lot of information there. Next one here is that the form interfaces keep changing. Okay, like the VR, the big wave. VR is not just been around for the last 4 years. Okay, history is that VR been here since 60. Okay, well, one slide tomorrow I'll talk about it. In the 60, they're born out from one go military, one go into academic, but then they didn't quite take off. The technology is quite demanding at the time. Okay. And then it come a boom, big boom before this one. This one is current. The last one, big boom, is in the mid-90s. And that's where the lab I went to PhD, so HIT lab in the US, in University of Washington in Seattle. There's a big boom there. There's a lot of things because every time we have open house annually, like a big company like Microsoft, Boeing, everything that just comes. So I mean, we know we kind of somewhere center of that area. But that one also didn't take off. Okay. So they go quiet for about 15 years, and then I'll come back with this. Oculus is being credited as one to leading his way. Okay, it's because their technical optic design allow them to have 100 degree and the tracking they're quite fast enough, accurate enough. Although the first version are not quite. Okay, so get a lot of headache for that. But then later on here, it should be fine. Okay, so nowadays you should feel relatively okay. But one thing when you wear the VR, that VR will never change, is that you can actually hit your friend that's standing next to you in the face without telling them in advance. So that means when you operate there tomorrow, on Wednesday, right, you try to use your voice a little bit, so they know that you're on your right-hand side of you, so they don't swing out and be surprised by it. So different form, okay. There's anyone know about Google Home? Mm-hmm. Alexa, those kind of things. So this is voice activated, okay. I was thinking of buying some of those, but I think probably going to be very hard to do in a 30 cramped room with a lot of noise going to the same receiver. So, but that is actually coming. Okay, that is definitely a form factor. So interface here doesn't necessarily go via AR. You could talk about that. You can write about those. Application here, smart home, what it look like, things like that. And now even actually, have you heard of smart farm? And that very relevant to Tasmania. Okay, I'm involved in some of the project there, smart farm. It doesn't make animals smarter. It just makes how we control, harvest, and feed the animals smarter. It's some way technically called recently precision agriculture, something like that. Like a cow will have a collar that actually have GPS, that actually have accelerometer, actually can tell where this cow had been today. In the morning, they open the gate, they go out, come back, they scan it back. They know where they're gone, how many bite that it made, so they can kind of do those kind of things. And they can actually point out of all the thousands of cattle, which one is starting to have problem. Okay. So some those are kind of precision agriculture are taking off. So that's why a lot of interface linking with this is changing. I mean, especially in China, there's a lot of movements in artificial intelligence. Okay, machine vision, those are kind of things that you're probably familiar somewhat, okay, that you're being tracked and people can detect it and those kind of things. So this is allow people really to question where the interface role will be. And then of all this data coming in, if you actually sit behind the table and try to work it out what to do, and how do you actually going to be able to access with those without suddenly, instead of you have one click per day, now you have every minute you have something to look at. Okay, so that is it's not always going to be a machine learning approach. Somewhat humans going to be part of it. Okay. And of course, the last one here is that we can never really escape our old world. Like, wow, this is an old. Why do we need a new interface? Because the old one is not so good. So that means the old one is actually require a lot of work. Is there anything that you can name? In fact, this could be an idea for your assignment one. That actually, you just hate this application so much, you just write about it. That what bad it is, what should be improved, those kind of things. Okay? Just make sure the application has used a certain interface technology, okay, rather than just application for Word or social network, that kind of thing. Okay? Try to make sure of that. So the last one is really just to give you a sense of the old days that we really never escape from this. All right, so attention consumption. This is a concept that that actually been thrown around. So what information consumed is rather obvious. It's actually consume the attention of the people who read them, or it's the recipient. So right now, my lecture should consume your time. Okay, hopefully it's worth your time, so you're consuming it. But so a wealth of information create a poverty of attention. Okay, so this is where you have a lot of things. So how many of you actually, when you first get up in the morning, I assume you get up in the morning, what the first thing you're looking at? Is it a mirror in your bathroom, or is your cell phone? So some of these is actually, you can tell the habit is changing. Okay, so although it's not always not good, because some of the advice we give to us academic is that don't check your email in the morning, the first thing in the morning, because you kind of slow everything down. And then suddenly you get a senior management inside your college. Send your email at 7 o'clock in the morning. You say, oh, okay, that's good. So what that means is that actually it's consume you. Okay, so that means how would actually you deal with those? Okay, it's not like, oh, you can all do all this step. And then yet, next morning you can do all this step again and this step this again. So essentially your brain is going to consume. Okay. So that's why I said this is just build a story to why the interface has a place to stay. Because that's when I talk about user need, it's all centered around this thing. Okay, whether we very efficiently done this thing before, done the way we done, because that's what we done. This is a way to change it. That's what interface would allow be a channel to create a creativity. Maybe this app will look at this. Maybe this application can solve this problem, improve this part. And that's what your assignment 1 is supposed to bring this side of, get you to think about. So, because you don't want to walk up like this, right? So the citation, when I talk about that, just like this, I copy it off from the internet. So you could do the same for your assignment 1, okay? And but as long as you cite them, okay? So in this case here is that we become slave to the machine that we built. Okay, because now you kind of have to go through that. But in fact, we should, since we are university students and the future of the world, then we need to dictate our own space. Okay, so you still have to read your email, of course, but you have to systematically how to go through them. Mm-hmm. So the user interface design, this I will break it down into 3 components, really simple. Okay, so first one is the hardware. Okay, so this is not a dreamland, so you can't, it's just purely based on, so you have to have some hardware. So in this case, it could be computer, could be your smart glass, we don't have much of that yet, smart coffee cup, smart everything, okay, except smart user, then the whole world will be difficult. And yeah, you have those. Next one is, of course, the software to run them, okay. This is not a firmware. Okay, firmware will just run the hardware to make it function. But the software here, where you design it. Okay, how you decide for this hardware to be used. This could be the apps, could be or in the mobile apps, it requires some of this process in some way. Okay, and that's the software, how to run them. Okay, and then this is the last component, which is actually how to design to make them make sense. That's why some of them are advanced, look cool. You never see them again, because actually they never hit the point of a good threshold of the design component. And therefore it becomes sort of like, oh, good to see. But that's it, never really useful. So in our unit, we try to drive to that part, even though we might not get the hardware correctly, we might not get the software development, but what you really need to get is a design component. To make sure, okay, the design is just and justify, and then it's good to be at. Oh, this one I forgot to put the paper, but I'll quickly put the paper in here. This is a paper wrote by my former PhD supervisor. Okay, so he wrote this quite a number of years ago. It's about human-machine coupling. Okay, the term here, he has military background, so he's a Air Force researcher. So therefore, his terminology is more on those. He still called HMI, human-machine interface, rather than HCI, which is more or less nowadays we don't use it. So human coupling is that your mind and your machines are coupling into the same thing. This is not the movie Matrix, or those are different type of coupling. This one is really about interface component. Okay, so this one is a good read. Have a good read, and then I realized that this is actually probably not the semester to be having a lot of reading because you practically won't have much time. Although each one of you should have only 4 hours face-to-face. You practically should have half a day available, so it should be fine. The only issue for you would be if you need or require hardware, because you have accessibility to that is either after 5 p.m. or on the weekend, so on Friday or first part of Monday. Yes. Other than that, it's a little bit tight. Okay. So in this case, the paper is actually outlined, okay, that in the paper outline what's the most useful, effective method for creating an interface for the future. Okay. You don't necessarily have to, in assignment 1, it's really not about creating what future look like. That's what assignment 2 and 3 is for, okay, by mixing with learning the technical. But this one is also checking with yourself, okay, well actually, how will you know which one is going to be useful? I mean, that's the simple questions, right? If you listen here, what's useful, what's going to be the next Facebook, which is really actually the definition is really not that useful, probably not the word to use for Facebook. It's more or less become, that's why Facebooks are building a lot of things to make it become necessity rather than a social network. Okay. You will see them do a whole lot of things that you cannot go without now. So this is useful, effective method, okay? How do we go about that? Do we even actually exist that sets the rule that people would do steps like this and then come up with a new product? Okay, and this product means interface application. Okay. So this is a grand chance, which is actually, no one has figured it out quite yet. Even this is like paper like 17, 18 years ago. Okay. But I think I like it the way it's actually proposed it at the very top. Even though someone might be able to have a successful application, like in the AR world, in the last few years, there's one breakthrough application that you probably heard of. On mobile device, you think can you guess? Augmented reality, mobile device, you're chasing after monster. Yes, so that's a major breakthrough. So that's our Pokemon Go. That's actually what we claim as augmented reality. So anyone not have experience with it? Well, I chasing them before, but only realized that my colleagues in the city park are chasing the same thing. So that's when I stopped doing it. So essentially here you have a game of Pokemon Go, Pokemon, right? So you go and chasing the monster, but the monster is a location based. So you have to go there, try to kill it or put it in your bag or something like that. Right, so, but that is actually our first major breakthrough, okay? So that one is actually a very, very significant component. However, the problem is highlight the fact that its uptake is very high. Most of the world will play with that. And then it's, the down slope is also very sharp. Nobody talk about. Nobody even play about now. Okay, whatever monster you collect is probably worthless by now. There's nobody really trading them. Yes, so that is actually, there's no set stone. That's why so far has been people claiming to do this. In VR, AR, it's the same thing. It's nobody can claim that that's a killer apps. Okay, you know what the definition of killer apps? Killer applications. So that means, well, they're not for killing. so the application that actually everyone have to have. Okay, that's a good example in the PC world. When the PC make its way from mainframe, big room, to a PC personal computer. There's one big undisputed killer apps, and that is nowadays you call it Microsoft Excel. So that's a word spreadsheet, okay, which is I put it enter in there, has a search function, go there, grab data, big computing on metric level, and that's a killer app. In VR, AR interface now, there's no such thing. That's why one of you guys could turn out to be Mark Zuckerberg in the future. Because if you hit that one, then you'll probably be one of the top. Okay? There's a lot of people hanging there, trying to be like that. Okay? Probably not me, but probably some of you will be going there. Okay? So, but this is still in terms of function. Okay? What are the appropriate metrics? We are on the right track. Let's say it's not a journey of a day. Like you think of it today and tomorrow is finished. It's going to be a long journey, a few days, few months, few years. How do you know you're going the right direction? People try it on and say, hey, you do a good job. Oh, this is cool. It's just enough. How many cool going to translate into success? Because all of this is actually, have you heard of the term wow factor? Wow, W-O-W, wow factor. Wow factor has two sides, which is really opposite. Wow means you put it on, whoa, this is great. The opposite side is like Pokemon Go. Well, I tried this before, it doesn't do anything. You just wow me one time and then never really wow me again. And that's actually a classical sign of not a killer app. So that means this, you're only going to be seen it once or twice. Okay, and that means, what does that mean? Is the bottom line is that people who make it won't make money, and so they go away and change job and do something else. So that means there's no money coming back to feed into ecosystem of this, and that becomes ultimately the whole field getting died slowly and slowly. Okay, so the killer apps still out there. The key here that I alluded to you before: Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Apple. The 4 companies now go neck to neck in all of this area. You find a headset, you will find something incompatible area. Okay, and you see our device, you will see the same as jump from a different cam. So that you will see that this is a very hot competed area, which is different than 3 or 4 years ago where Google Glass came up. Okay, that's the only one, and then that has a small fish. They're competing with them by Visuk and other company, but there's no major IT that has billions of dollars in cash reserve to go and play. So what that means is that one day can no longer get a stakeholder. Like what? Do you know Google Glass? It's Google Glass here now actually make your way back again. I think you probably haven't seen it, but it's actually they're changing the strategy. Before they were pitching, this is the way phone will be. And that's the wrong pitch. And now everyone acknowledges that because it's too limited. The power is limited. There's a technical efficiency. The form factor is correct. Okay, so lightweight, like HoloLens, which is a weight reasonably higher. So what that means is that there's a lot of things in play. Yes, you just have to pull the right string on that component. Yeah, maybe I track a little bit there, but this is where number 2 is the key. How do you know what is actually makes sense? You're on the right track. So, and this one is actually related on innovative components of the application itself. Okay, how would they be used? Okay, because people will tend to go into this cycle is that, oh, I'm a creative people, I design things new, but then the mistakes start to happen when they start to believe too much into what they design. So what that means is that they don't open up for change. So essentially here, what worked 5 years ago, it no longer works now. So that's why you in this space, if you want to excel in this space, you need to keep changing. You keep to adapting to a new thing, okay? To be able to learn and go fast, because this space is moving really fast. Okay. I think it's number 4 is a break. Oh, the last one here is this is a concept Professor Fen is projecting. Okay, so this is a bandwidth to the brains. You know that right now everyone uses mobile phone and you have bandwidth, NBN. So that's has the term called bandwidth, right? So this one is the same thing. Human brain, right now the very premise of the interface is that human brain is smarter than computer. However, we're not smart enough to design an interface to work with smart brain. So essentially, most of the brain are suffocated to the interface we ourselves build for ourselves. So that's the same kind of argument that people are saying that we could do much better, not because we're going to be smarter, but the way we're using the application will be more efficient. Okay? So this is what we term called bandwidth to the brain. Okay? So essentially, it's just something that actually smarter, understand. I always believe the interface. Nowadays, the next paradigm to about to kick in with the VR and AR is driven by back end of AI. Okay, AI is artificial intelligence. Okay, so that will be the killer component. They're gonna bring a lot of what VR and AR essentially is a medium, interface medium. But actually, without AI, anyone watch Iron Man? I bring everyone for 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, no, 4, but 1, 2, 3. You will see that inside Tony Stark visor, he always talking to AI person, and it has augmented view. Okay, all those things. So those are actually what I think Hollywood is getting right. So I think that's what the right direction. It might not be in that kind of metal suit flying around, but it could be in some kind of machine they build. So you're talking to the machine like Google Home, things like that, and then basically they start to talking you back, increase the capacity in the military called spatial awareness. You go into an area where you cannot see, but the sensor can tell, but sensor relay information back to you without you actually have to activate everything procedure based. So this one can almost AI to be a medium agent to talk you into that in critical environments. Okay, so that would be something that we can think about those in the future. Mm-hmm. So this is what Tom Furness looking at. Okay, so this is a design components of when you design any interface. Okay, this is trying to understand what humans are. Okay, so humans are 3D spatial being. Okay, what that means is that spatial here means we are living inside a 3D world, so everything moves in 3D. Okay, I'll let you think you're fourth dimension, fifth dimension being. Navigate on a gravity. So, but in this case, you know, X, Y, Z, you move in 3D space, you perceive everything in 3D. Okay, and you have a two visual system. So in this case, a visual system here is one is a concentrate on the focus. Okay, and the other one is on peripheral. Okay, this is for awareness of yourself and also spatial awareness around you. So there's quite a bit of that. That's why you can see things on the sides of the edge of your eyes. Okay. But usually the focus is in the center. Okay. Human build mental model that create expectation. So in this case here, you see a red sign. You look at the back of the room here, you see the green. So that means that's a good way to go. Okay, not another 10 minutes or so, not now. But if you see the red one, you probably don't go straight to that. Okay, so that's an expectation. That's a mental model. So this is only come from the learning experience, like you brought up, you see in this. So sometimes you can see a bit of a culture difference. Okay, actually certain culture has certain different things, and that's when you kind of get a little bit in a kind of tricky area. Okay. But this is where you experience in the world, and you form into a model inside your head. This is how you behave. Why do we need to care this? We just build interface device, and we just give them a manual for them to follow. We can set any rules. And that's go back to information overload. Is that if you actually go and keep counting the common or normal use of application or design or the expectation, that means the relearn of the new rules. And that will make it actually application is more difficult to use. And one thing, a paradigm has been shifted in the last, I think, 15 or 20 years. Before that, when I was still in college, university, at that time, is that your efficiency of how to work is how well you navigate the manual of the device, the tools, and everything. Nowadays, the game is shift to the fact that actually how well the application works is how well they actually get the user to understand it. So you will see a lot of help now is actually more, okay, a lot more, and then more try to more center-oriented around what the end user is, okay, instead of a good example in mobile programming is, have you heard of Symbian before? It's an old operating system running a Nokia device, Nokia phone. So they used to populate and dominate the phone before iPhone came on the board and Android jumped on it. Okay. So that is an example in the old days. They're no longer here. So that means Symbian will do whatever they want, operating system on the most popular on the planet, Nokia device, Nokia phone. So that means they were very slow in making changes, and they wouldn't necessarily care writing a manual, good API documentation. Nowadays, you look at most of our references are linked to the online resources, because now actually they put a lot of effort into that, so that you can get you to actually help them write application. So things are changing there. So, and the fourth one, okay, is parallel information input. Okay. So this one is actually, because now if you look at the human brain, we're not actually just a visual. We have a spatial sound that we can process. We have inertial sensor inside our brain, okay, that build on the border level inside your brain. And that is actually creating a lot of sensing subtle when the visual is no longer intact. Okay. So that means you just have to recognize this. All this is recognizing how humans operate. Okay. Work best with 3D model control. So in this case, for example, that's why the elderly find it hard to work with the traditional PC computer. You never used computer before, because essentially navigating mouse, keyboard, and look at another thing, and it's sort of a little bit you require hand-eye coordination. So that is a lot of things that kind of be difficult for them. That's why 3D control, such as iPad, it's not a 3D, but essentially you hold it, you touch where you actually do. That's a good example of putting that. So that's what humans are adapting to better. Okay. So humans are different from each other. Okay. This is really setting expectation. And this one nowadays extend to the ethical backgrounds. Okay. So your culture backgrounds and things like that. So interface need to take into that consideration. Number 7, I think this might just be Tom's personal takes. Human don't read instruction, but I hope you read instruction that I provide. So essentially here, a lot of interface now, if you look at AR in particular, a lot of them is be a list of instruction, okay? So which is actually, to me, was a little bit kind of going backward. But that's what I think our unit probably could hope share some things that allow you to look a little bit at things differently. Okay. Maybe deliver an assignment next time, not in a PDF, in something else. So this is just sort of give you an idea. Okay, we have more 10 more minutes, and we'll see. So this is keep forgetting that the color is not good. You have to go back and change some of the. But in the slide, it should be okay in the PDF. Okay. So in this case here, we have human on one side. On the left side, we have the world that we interact with. Okay, they're not part of human. So the arrow here from right to left in the top white color. So that just shows how the world interacts with the human. And on the opposite side, in black, unfortunately you cannot really see, it's basically how people interact directly. The arrow go to the right, interact to the world. So this just shows you a basic component that people are working. Okay, they perceive the world by the white arrow from right to left, and then the action toward the world in which. So in this case, it's the same thing. I want to pick up things, so I see things. So this one get to me by having a reflection toward my eyes, and I'll be able to grab them where I see them. That's just try to put in a thing in the diagram. Now, where does the computer sit? So the computer here sits at the middle. Okay, we call it technology-mediated experience. Okay, experience here is anything that you go to humans. So because you have this component, so you have a display. Now you have this middle. So that means some of them you still preserve it, the direct perception on the top, and from the previous slide, direct action at the bottom. Okay, that one doesn't have to go to. I still see the real world, interact with the real world. But if I want to interact through this computer or technological mediated component, the blue one in the middle, what you need is that you need a way to interface to them. So in this case, the blue box for me is my computer. Okay, so that means before I interact with them, then that's arrows here that showing you, that how would that blue box get the feedback to you? So that's through the display. So that's how I know how my computers are working now. And how do you actually interact with them? It could be keyboard, it could be hit a mouse to go to the next page, previous page, things like that. Okay, and then on this side, then that's when how computer interaction with the world. Whether this one has any action, no. So in this case here, if I move things on my screen, on keyboard here, sending a command to the world, in this case here, it's a projector. So it's changing what happened in the real world. So I click this, it goes to the next page, things like that. Okay, so that is a very, very different module. Okay, so what we've been talking about, what expectation, what the humans are made of, is actually on that side of things. Okay. That's why we understand what the basic compute. Human has not been evolved since this new technology has gone through in the last 50 years, 60 years, since the silicon-based chip has come arrived. So that means humans are practically the same. Okay, you probably might think you're different, but I believe I'm the same as my dad. So we're all human fundamentally same, even though you might think you work on more fancy application, but essentially the way you process things are similar. The difference here is that your experience is just different than your parent generation. That's it. Yeah. So that's why if you're going to design from the other end, what we design here is really the blue box in the middle. We need to recognize what is in it in the human size and what in it in the real world. And that's what you try to gather in this unit to slowly bridging between this. Because without understanding this, you might end up with, I want to do this, but I don't really care what the human is good for, or what is for what the user. That's what the term that I used oftentimes called user need. It's not, user always need money, but that's not the point. It's user need here is in that particular circumstances, what is actually they particularly need? Why would they need to do this? Why would they actually need to improve this aspect? So that is a form that side of thing. Okay? So this is a machine size. Okay, so this one is actually can highlight this part. Okay, whether actually there are different components. There was a display to get you. Display here could be visual, could be audio display. So in this case, could be a spatial sound. Okay, spatial sound means You can have simulated sound that come from different location. Okay, so that's quite a handy one to have in the immersive environment. All of the VR headset will have a headgear. Will have the microphone, or not microphone, the headset with the audio stereo gear. So that one is actually allow you to project somewhat a stereo sound. Okay, it would allow projecting object behind you, sideways, and things like that. Okay. All right, so I think I'm stopped here because the rest of this is just a couple of slots, so I can touch on this quickly tomorrow. Any questions? And before you leave, I think this is an image of most likely hopefully not me tonight, but could be you. So this is how you observe the real world directly. Okay, yeah. So look at the TV. Of course, the real world is about another event that happens something else. But essentially, this is a record experience, so that you see things that actually record someone else that you're looking at. Even though it just looks like a normal image, but just hopefully give you a thinking in that term, because this is why I'm trying to get this to you in the next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. All right, so any questions? All right, so otherwise I'll see you, tomorrow is not going to be in this room lecture. It's going to be in the physics 315, I believe. Yeah, which I still don't know where it is, but it's physics somewhere over there. Yes. All right. See you tomorrow 9 o'clock. Okay. Thank you. Oh, really? Oh, okay, I'll put it up. Yeah.
And I found this. Can I just write this? Mind motion Go application is for the rehabilitation.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, we could. Via product, but this is a product, but they have the application.
Oh yeah. Right about that. The actual hardware is a Kinect, Microsoft Kinect.
This Xbox.
But the Mind Motion would have to, because this one they use to track the head location.
Yeah.
I think does that get to the eyes? I don't think they get to the eyes exactly. But that is okay. I mean the hardware here, but you're right about application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.